Hello guys and welcome to Painting Panzers. My name's Christian and today I've got another 3D print for the channel. Now this one is a Panzer 470A from the Plastic Soldier Company and another print that I am absolutely chuffed to bits with, and the Panzer 470A in my opinion is probably the best looking German tank, and I know I'm going to get a lot of criticism for that because you've got things like the Tiger and the King Tiger and Panther. But no, the Panzer 470A for me is my absolute favourite. So I'm chuffed to bits. I'm finally getting to paint this one. But enough of me rambling on. Let's get straight into this tutorial. Now, if you'd like to pick up this Panzer 470, you can find it at the Plastic Soldier 3D website, and I'll leave a link to that in the video description. Scroll down until you can find the Jagd Panther that you can see on screen now, and then in there you've got all the different options of the Jagd Panther that you can pick from, and I obviously picked the A. So the Jagd Panther Akit, I think it's pronounced, or Jagd Panther 470A, is one of my favourite German tanks. Don't ask me why. I think it's just that ugly stepsister look to it compared to the smaller version of the Panzer 470 in terms of its height. Now, I did have a plastic model of this and it was rubbish, so I'm chuffed that Plastic Soldier Company offer a 3D print. And as you can see, the prints actually come up really nice. There's a few little marks there you can see on the wheels there. They're a little bit out of shape and such, but they're not really too much of a concern because you can easily hide all of that. In terms of the rest of it, it's all great, and the barrel even came nice and straight, which is a really good plus. I was very, very happy with this print. So to start off with, I'm going to be giving my model a prime of black. So Tamiya primer black, and then I'm going to be using dark yellow 2, again from Tamiya. I'm going to be putting in 2 parts of the paint and 1 part thinners into my airbrush, and I'm using an Iwata Neo CN. It's more of a beginner's airbrush, but it's really great for 20mm models. My compressor is set to 15 psi and 1 bar, and you can see that I'm lightly applying the color over so that black primer comes through, and now I'm using that same paint but I'm panel highlighting, so you can see that I'm just focusing on the middle areas of each panel, and I'm just making sure that that stands out a lot more than those outer edges, and it's just a really quick method to make that German yellow look great. Then I'm adding dark yellow 2 and olive green mixed together, so I'm putting 2 parts olive green and 1 part dark yellow 2, again with 1 part of thinners, and I'm adding in some squiggly green lines. Now I'm going to add some brown to this as well, so try to leave yourself some room if you're going to be copying this same sort of scheme, and just do like a regular little lines and such. Now we're doing the same again, so I'm doing dark yellow 2 and red brown into my mixture, so that's 2 parts red brown and 1 part dark yellow 2. I always like to use a palette. I just think it's a lot better practice than doing it in the actual airbrush. And then you can see by adding that dark yellow 2, it's lighter and it's blending in with the base color a lot better. And now I'm adding in some irregular shapes. I'm following the green and then I'm coming away from the green, that sort of thing. If you look on the internet and such, if you've got books, which I don't have, but good books, you'll see this sort of camo scheme. I mean, it's not perfect, but this is the sort of thing that some of these tanks had. So yeah, just setting that compressor again to 15 psi and 1 bar, and just lightly spraying it and just using your really good control. And once you've done that, you should have something that looks like this. And once you're happy with it, give it a day or so, and then give it a semi-gloss varnish from Tamiya. It's just a rattle can. Just make sure it's at room temperature. You can heat it up just in a nice pool of water, and then you can apply your deco. So I'm just going with some German crosses, and I'm putting 1 on the front plate here, 1 on each side and 1 on the back. I'm also adding in some tactical numbers as well, so I'm going with 112. I believe these are Peddinghaus decals. I did have a slight issue with one of them, just like my previous video, so yes, I had to correct that, but I've added some micro sole to that just so they stick a little bit better. I'm drying them up with my cut and bud, and once I'm happy, I'm going to give them another semi-gloss varnish, which is going to hide that film and then allow me to go ahead and put on my panel line color dark brown from Tamiya, and you can see that this comes with the tip already, and it's an enamel wash, so it's really important that you put that semi-gloss varnish down. It's going to protect it, that paint coat, as well as give you a flat surface for that wash to run around in and go into all the little nooks and crannies. And as you can see, it's a really fine brush on this wash, so it's actually acting as a pin wash, which is perfect. Once you've given it about 10 to 15 minutes, come along with some enamel odorless thinners, a cotton bud or a brush, and just start cleaning up all the excess. You can see a lot of that wash spews out over the sides and stuff. It's quite hard to control, especially those enamel washes. So this is where the cleanup process is really important. If you use an oil wash, for example, you can blend it in a lot better than you can an enamel wash, in my opinion. So for the tracks, I'm going with black. Now I know, just like my previous video, I'm sure you might be going, black's not correct, but bear with me, we're going to dry brush the hell out of this, add pigments and such, and it's going to look very nice. Once that black is dried, I'm going to be using black grey for the road wheels that we can see here. So we've got 4 on that we can see on the back here, and then we've got a couple on the tucked away in the back of the vehicle that we can also paint, and then obviously the opposite side too. And this print is actually really nice. Oh, you can see that I'm also using that same German grey for the metal, and then I'm painting all the wood in flat earth. But as I was saying, this print is actually really nice. I've got very few criticisms with it. It is far better than the plastic kits that are out there on the market currently. It is a fantastic print and model. So yeah, well worth giving the Plastic Soldier Company 3D prints a go if you haven't already. Then for the exhaust, I'm going to be using burnt umber. You really want to go for like a dark brownish colour. You can add in like a little bit of a rust or an orange to it to give it that rusty sort of tone, but we'll do all of that in a little while. And then for all of those like inspection holes or like viewing ports, I'm going to be using Luftwaffe uniform World War II for those. And there's quite a few on this one actually, so you've got to pay attention to those. And once you've done that, you can go ahead and wash everything that we've just painted, apart from like the tracks obviously. So we're going to go over all of the bits of equipment like the spade, or the shovel I should say, not the spade, sounds like they're at the beach. The shovel, the wrench, you know, the pliers that are there, the jack, the wheels, those viewing ports that we just spoke about. Wash all of that with that Nor oil and Lafmium medium. And once you've got that done, you can then go over all those wooden items with flat earth again, and I'm just adding in a little line on the top. There's not much to this process, but then I'm going over it with flat earth and orange brown again, just adding in a nice little line, just scratching it in there. It's almost like a dry brush on the top of the surface there, and then it just starts to brighten that wood up and just makes it look very nice. And then orange brown is what I'm going to be using as the final highlight. So obviously you can mix and match what you want to do here, guys, if you want to make the process just a little bit quicker, but I think this works really nicely, this formula. Then for those Luftwaffe uniform areas, I'm literally just going to go over those with Luftwaffe uniform World War II. If you wanted to give them a little brighter tone, you could add in some white to that mixture as well, and potentially hit it with some gloss varnish afterwards, but I didn't do that. Now for the chipping, I'm going to be using German camo black brown. I'm just getting an old bit of foam from a ballista, and I'm just going to be focusing on those straight edges, giving them a little bit of this foam treatment, so they've got a few little dings and marks and such. Obviously any area that's going to have a high bit of traffic, so the ports that the crew are getting in and out of, potentially the engine area, and anywhere that's going to be getting scratched to buggery by bushes and such. Now I already had a little bit of damage from a decal that didn't work properly. The black primer was coming through, so I'm just adding in a few little scratch marks as if the bushes have scratched it, or driven by something that's scratched the paintwork. Then dry brushing burnt umber onto the tracks is going to give them a really nice tone. That black is going to disappear and you're going to have a nice dusty brown looking track, which I think just looks great. And don't be afraid if you get a bit on the actual vehicle itself. It's a dry brush, so it actually ends up being like a muddy, dusty colour just on the bottom, which actually works in your favour and looks really cool. Now I'm adding pigments to my vehicle, so I'm using the pigment set from Vallejo, and I'm using this more of the sandy colour, and I'm just going absolutely ballistic because I'm going to add in a flat clear spray. So I'm going to get rid of that gloss, and I'm also going to be spraying it over all of this pigment, and it's going to seal some of the pigment but not much, and it's going to give it a bit of a dusty effect. And then I'm going to be going back over it once it's dry. It takes like 10 minutes for that flat clear to dry. I'm going to be now going over it again. So this is my second coat that I'm putting on now, and I'm being a little bit more careful. I'm not putting it all over the vehicle. I'm just putting it on areas where I want there to be bits of mud and such. And then I'm getting my pigment binder, and I'm just using my toothpick here, and I'm just slowly putting it all over there, and that's going to trap all those bits of pigment and make it look like dirty mud and stuff that's accumulated inside the tracks and such. And then with that done, I just don't feel like it's complete. I want to add in some foliage, so I'm using green stuff tool shrubbery, and I've gone with the more of like a green bush because I'm picturing them just in like a nice green sort of environment, forest, or somewhere in you know, France or Germany. So I'm picking out bits. It's really easy to snip and pull, and you start getting these like branches that look really cool. And I pre-fit before I glue down. I'm just having a look, how does it look, am I happy? And then apply some PVA glue, just a little bit on one side where I know it's going to be stuck down to, and then I repeat the process until I'm happy. Now do remember guys that sometimes less is more, so don't go too crazy. It is very easy to get carried away, but this is as much as I was willing to go with this. I was tempted to do a little bit more, but again, less is more. You don't want to hide all those details. And then there you go. That's how it should come out. That's with the shrubbery on there, as well as all those pigments. You can see the mud built up on the back there, but more of the like drier sandy color. Yeah, I think it looks really, really good. I do like the foliage though. I think it does add in a lot to it. Don't forget, you don't want to hide all of those viewing ports and stuff, because the crew would obviously want to be looking out of them as well. So bear that in mind when you're putting the foliage on. So overall, this vehicle was a ton of fun to paint, and I'm chuffed to bits that we've got a 3D print of a Panzer 478. I've been wanting to do one for ages. Again, it's my favourite tank, and I raged quit with my previous plastic kit. It went straight in the bin because it just was terrible. So yeah, very, very happy with how it's come out. I really do love these 3D prints from Plastic Soldier Company. This is my second one that's on the channel now. I know they've had a few little hit and miss when they first came on the scene with their 3D prints, but I honestly haven't had any issues with them, so I would urge you to give them another go. This was purchased by me, so I'm not paid or anything. I've been given this for free to sort of promote them. This is just my honest opinion. So you guys do what you want to do, but I'm chuffed to bits that I've got this one. A massive thank you goes out to my Patrons and YouTube channel members for making videos like this possible. As always, a special mention goes out to Patrick, Oscar, James, Colin, Panzer Jim, Mikey, Mike, Lack of Foresight Gaming, Eric and Rothgar. You guys are absolutely awesome. Thank you so much for being those Panzer Racers. Alright guys, I'm going to leave it here. Let me know if you've enjoyed this return to Panzers and what Panzers you would like to see next. And until then, I will catch you at the next one.